Hi, everybody. My name is Bobby SANABRIA. Welcome to Percussion Discussion here at the place to be, the BMHC, the Bronx Music Heritage Center. You know, in Percussion Discussion, we frequently give you topics of discussion in terms of different techniques involving percussion, but we frequently have guests as well. We've had people like Will Calhoun, the great drummer from the Bronx, and the great Juan Gutierrez from Puerto Rico and the Bronx. And tonight is no exception. We have an SOB, just like me, the great Charlie Benante, a son of the Bronx. But
Yeah.
Yo, Charlie! Yo! Hey, yo!
many of you know Charlie's work. Many of you know Charlie's incredible work with Anthrax, but we're going to peel the layers back on Charlie's fantastic career, his drumming, and also some of the other talents that Charlie has that you may not know. But before we start, we're going to have for you tonight, as well assisting me, is somebody who's a legend in the music business behind the scenes. For many years, he was the head of artist relations at Vic Firth Sticks, which are the sticks that Charlie uses and that I use and that many people in the industry use. He was also the head of the percussion department at Sam Ash, at Manny's, at Terminal Music as well. And he's a great drummer in his own right in the world of rock and heavy metal. So please welcome somebody who's no stranger to any of us in the business, but you might not know if you're just tuning in, the one and only, and just to show you we're not prejudiced, he's from Queens, New York, Marco SOCCOLLI.
Hey, what's up, everybody? But I just want you to know, grew up in Astoria by the Triborough Bridge, and I even knew the toll attendant in the Bronx because my wife was from the Bronx, and I was a Yankee fan, and I was proud to see my buddy Charlie play Yankee.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights of my life. So I'm gonna interrupt everybody now and do my 2-minute speech because Charlie's been a friend for almost 40 years. And this is my new back cave basement. As you can see, my disco lights and they blink, but I'm not gonna annoy everybody. So I'm gonna give you my 2-minute strip tease. 1990. It was just the time. Charlie gave me this jacket and it pinched my knees. So if anybody knows the fat bastard I am, look, it only comes up to here. So I've won this many shows. Thank you, brother. And then I found the shirt, which took a really long time to get on. Look at this fucking thing. Huh?
Oh my God. Dude.
And now I'm gonna do my strip tease act. No, I do not have a six pack, and I'm not Jake Gyllenhaal, or Chris Jericho, my Fozzy brother. But hold on, let me do this. And show some of there's the belly, some of Charlie's talents.
That's right.
Shirt.
Oh my God.
This is, baby. Look at that.
It's like this is
like
your
Flake.
life.
Right. This is what I can't. And then we get one more down to this. Another one of Big Charlie's drawings of my fat ass. Look at this.
Wow, dude.
That? And look at the year of this tour. 1996. Okay, so I'm not taking this off. I'm a fat, ugly bastard. I'm putting my hat on. And I just want to tell you, Charlie, I love you, brother. Miss you, man.
Dude, you're the greatest. You know that.
No.
Everybody who knows Marco knows that when Marco enters a room, you don't even to put the light switch on it. Automatically, the lights just go on, you know, because he just lights up the room.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, we also want to thank, before we start the interview with Charlie, we want to thank, a big shout out to the Underground and the Fox and King, who are co-presenters tonight. And we're going to have two representatives from the Underground later on joining us, Danny Castro and Francesca La Macchia. All right. Well, Charlie, thank you again for doing this. And for all the people that are Bronxites, yes, indeed, if you didn't know, Charlie is a Bronxite. Let's start at the very beginning, Charlie.
Yep.
What section of the Bronx were you born and raised in?
I was born in an area called Throg's Neck. I grew up right by the bridge, the Throg's Neck Bridge that connects the Bronx to Queens. And the funny thing about that whole bridge situation is, like, I grew up on one side of the bridge, and one of the other guys from the band Anthrax grew up on the opposite side, right? Exactly the same places, like where I grew up. He grew up just a few feet from the bridge. It's pretty funny.
How did you get in? How did you first get into drumming?
I, I always said this, that I wasn't I didn't get into drumming. Drumming was already in me when I was born. Uh, my family always said that I was 2, 3 years old and I was already hitting things, you know. And then when I was about 4, almost 5, they actually bought me a kit, and I was playing when I was
Wow.
that young. Yeah.
Now, just so your vital statistics, I could give them out, but I want them to come from you. What year were you born and what's your birthday?
I was born November 27th, 1962, in the Bronx.
Fantastic.
And I
Fantastic.
started taking lessons when I was about 5, 6 years old. The hardest part is, like, the music teacher said I couldn't give you lessons. He has to know how to read first, you know, before he could start taking drumming lessons. So there was a place on Westchester Square um, that did lessons. It was a music place. There was a movie theater on Westchester Square, and I don't know if you're familiar with that. It used to be a Woolworths. Right across the street from that was a movie theater, which when I was young, we used to go see movies there. But right next to that was a music place, and that's where I first started taking lessons.
Wow. Do you remember the name of the music school at all?
It was
And the
just a music store, and in the back they did lessons in the back. And my first drum teacher, I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Louis, and he was this jazz guy. And my dad took me and talked to him, and when he saw me, he's like, oh, he's small, you know. So my dad said, go play, and then I played, and then he was like, okay, I'll give him lessons, and that's how it happened.
wow, fantastic. Now, Francesca Lamantia is here, and she's from the Thrax Neck area, just like you. So we're gonna have her and Danny Castro later on give questions. So it's really hip that she's from the same area
It's
that
awesome.
you're from, and she's from a band called A Multitude of Drops. So you're gonna get to hear from her in a little bit. Now, you said that the gentleman that first taught you was a jazz drummer.
He's a
So
jazz drummer.
so is that the first music that you heard when you were growing up as a kid, jazz, or were you already listening to pop and rock music from the radio?
Well, I had 4 older sisters, so there was always music in the house, you know. So of course, whatever they listened to is stuff that I listened to, and I was just like a sponge. I would just
Mm.
take it all in, you know. And of course, they love the Beatles, which of course I love the Beatles now. But you know, kind of that type of music. You know, my mom was into opera, and she would always play like opera records. Whether it be like Madame Butterfly or just certain things like that, you know. So that's the music that I listened to when I was younger.
I'm just curious. So from your last name, I'm assuming you're of Italian American descent. So and your mother's listening to opera. Did your mother speak to you in Italian when you were young at all? Or
Actually, my family did speak Italian when I was younger, and especially my grandparents, they spoke fluent, you know, Italian. And as the years went on, people didn't speak it as much as they used to, and then we kind of lost it, you know,
right,
throughout
right.
the years.
Do you know where your roots are from in Italy, in
Oh
Italia?
yeah, oh
Uh,
yeah, Sicily.
wow, in Sicily. Wow. Do you
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
city, Palermo, or like?
Close to Palermo is a small city close to Palermo, but every time we go tour Italy, I try to go up to the places where, you know, my great grandparents were from and stuff. So,
Wow, that's
but
fantastic.
yeah,
It's always good to get in touch with your roots, and I know from having Italian friends and Sicilian friends, sometimes it gets contentious because sometimes you, I introduce a friend of mine. I say he's Italian. He goes, "Hey, wait a minute, man, I'm Sicilian." You know, like
yeah,
they get
yeah,
really specific. It's kind of like with Cubans and Puerto Ricans. I'm Puerto Rican, and you know, they say he's Spanish. I go, no, 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 I'm Puerto Rican. Now I'm not from Spain or whatever. That kind of
right.
yeah.
I'm
So
Northern
anyway,
Italian. I'm
but
Northern Italian, and I married a Sicilian from the Bronx,
yeah, yeah.
Arthur Avenue.
So since you, Marco, since you know Charlie so well, when did you first meet Charlie and become aware of his talent as in
I
the
was
scene?
always a fan of the band and his playing. I'll still say it today. My name for Charlie is he's the Clyde Stubblefield of metal. He's the funky drummer. And not to take away his rock and metal chops because that's at a whole nother level. But for the kids who just know him from that stuff, he could funk. I mean, and a lot of things people also don't know is Charlie's an amazing guitarist. So he writes all the songs in the band, which people don't know. And he comes up with these great beats and great rhythms. And I think we met on 48th Street when I was at Sam Ash.
Before that.
Before I was at Terminal Music. That's right.
Yep.
Johnny Tempesta, a great friend of ours, great drummer.
From the Bronx.
From the Bronx as well. We got to get his ass on here.
Yeah.
Johnny was playing with a band, Jackal, and then Charlie had a tour, and then Johnny went, if I'm correct, and was drum teching for Charlie. And that was when like the Akai S900 first came out and the triggering, and before technology got better. So I really got into that and helped them with that. And then we became friends. And then if anybody wants to look it up, there's a Hard and Heavy VHS video cassette. It was a series that you would buy these video cassettes, and it was like a magazine, but it was a VHS tape. And there would be 4 or 5 bands promoted. So Charlie calls me, he goes, yo, they asked, the band to do one. So I said, come up to Sam Ash drum department, because we had the 2nd floor, and man, we trashed it. So sorry, Sammy Ash, we love you, but we had to go watch the video. We played every instrument, every conga, drum, timbali, shakere, broke things, put them on our heads. We're shaking up and down. That was like things. Drank grappa. It was good times.
Lots of grappa. But back in those days when we were becoming friends, and throughout the years we remained friends, and the group of us that was from that time, I would say, we've always stayed close with each other. You know what I mean? Like, we used to go down 48th Street, and Marco would show us the newest thing that's coming out, and he'd demonstrate it for us, and we'd all sit there like, oh my God, like, Marco, he's the guy. And then years later, when all of us would do like the NAMM shows, and we'd all meet out there and just have such a great time, like it was 48th Street, but in Anaheim. And to this day, we're all still friends with each other.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I think it was not, sorry to interrupt, but being from a poor Italian family, playing pots and pans and spoons, I'm a drummer. So my goal was, after we got LSD, lead singer's disease, and we got dropped, and I didn't become a freaking famous drummer, and I got into artist relations. My goal was to help my family and my family of drummers, and Charlie and all those guys were one of them. So when I got those gigs, I'm not bragging, but I was like the first guy, Vic Firth, to put metal guys in ads. I got fired by a certain family member, and then Vic would call me, rest in peace. I love the guy like a second dad, and say, don't worry, you're not fired. It's okay. Charlie and ads, all that genre of music. It was just giving back. And then when I went to the Dario, and then I had strings and guitar strings and bass strings, and then Evans, and then I was a Remo guy, but then I got Evans, and between me and you, I didn't like it that much, but I spent $8 million of their money. They fixed them. It went good. So then I was able to do ads with Anthrax, and we had we do NAMM show signings. We'd have like 5 guys at a time. Every time the line would go down the block at NAMM, Vic would run out and go, what the fuck is going on? Excuse my language. What's going on over here? I go, yo, this is the Familia. So it'd be Charlie, Mayan, Tempesta, Simon Phillips. I mean, Danny Carey, everybody. And it was, like Charlie said, it was Familia.
It's like when you meet other drummers, there's this immediate thing about it. It's like you already know each other. You speak the rhythm, to each other, and you just feel it. It's a great vibe, and that's the way the vibe has always been with Marco. He just speaks that rhythm to me, and we just have this connection.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Marco, I must say, especially for the drummers and percussionists in the Latin community, Marco was the first guy to start doing ads with all of us too. So but in any case, getting back to you, Charlie, and your great career, there's a lot of scenes, as you well know, in New York City, especially in the Bronx. Dr. Mark Nason, the head of African American Studies at Fordham University, says that there are more different styles of music that have been nurtured in the Bronx than in any other place in the United States, other than maybe Treme in New Orleans. So
that's true.
How did you gravitate toward what today is known as metal music, growing up in a certain section of the Bronx? Because you obviously, since you're into Clyde Stubblefield, who was a drummer for James Brown, you're into R&B, funk.
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have heard salsa growing up in the neighborhood in the Bronx. You couldn't escape it, and all these other forms of music. Jess, how did you gravitate toward metal? What attracted you to that, and how did the band start, Anthrax?
Well, for one, being in music class in the schools was always my favorite period, of course, because it gave me a chance to meet other musicians and express what I had in here, to other people. So for me, I didn't just hang out with one person or two. I hung out with everybody. Like I was friends with everybody. So if you were into funk, I was your friend. If you were into classical, I was your friend. If you were into rock music, I was your friend. And it was a collective. The music teachers that we had, I went to the school IS 192 in the Bronx, and the two music teacher, the two brothers, the Morris brothers, they had a music program there that really helped aspiring musicians, and they weren't. I would say their discipline. They were very disciplined. If you didn't come in and know your chops or know the chart, man, they would throw a music stand at you because you just weren't, they wanted you to be there to learn and to feel it. So I respected them for that. They were so cool to us. A few of the drummers there, they would let you take home cymbals, snare drums, stuff like that to better your experience and better you as a drummer. So I always name check those two, the Morris brothers from IS 192. After that, I went to Lehman High School, got involved with the music program there, but it just wasn't something I really was into. I already wanted to do my own thing. And that's why I started to play in other bands. Like I was really young and I was playing on City Island. There was a couple of bars there that I was playing with a band that I was in. And I was only like 15, 16, and I wasn't allowed in the bars. So I had to stay in the back and play, and I couldn't go to the front and near the bar because I was only 16 years old. And I would play 4 sets on Friday and Saturday, and the crazy sets that we would do, I would do a set of like progressive music, anything from like Yes to UK to Jethro Tull to like top 40 stuff. So I had it all. I wanted to play everything. So when Marco says I'm Clyde Stubberfield, it's because I love James Brown and Clyde and J-Bo. Those drummers to me were it.
Fantastic. And how did so?
1 second, Bob.
Before we get into Anthrax, let me.
Let me interrupt 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
About his two teachers, that if you didn't do your lesson, he'd throw the stand at you. And I just got to tell people this. Vic, rest in peace, he taught at the New England Conservatory, excuse me, for 36 years. And he was the same way. If you didn't learn your lesson, he would tell you, get the F out. Don't waste my damn time. And most people don't know this, but one of the famous guys he threw out was Emeril Lagasse, Bam, the chef, because he tried to major in percussion, and Vic said he sucked. So I threw him out. And then years later, we went to the Emeril show, and Emeril rented 4 timpanis, didn't tell Vic, and Vic ended up jamming with Emeril. So Vic said, good thing you kept cooking because your playing sucked. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought Charlie would dig that one.
I'm glad you did. I think it worked out for both of them,
Yeah.
He just sold his name for $50 million to Martha Stewart. He's not hurting.
Well, before we get into the birth of Anthrax, let's play a little bit of a video that I selected through the assistance of Jorge Vasquez at Master Control. Now, Charlie is, besides being a fantastic drummer and guitarist, as he said, and he has other talents that we're going to get into, he's a fantastic songwriter as well. And as Marco says, basically he writes most of the material for Anthrax. So let's look at a song and listen to a song, look at a little bit of the video that deals with the plight of Native Americans. It's entitled Indians.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, fantastic. you that was early on in your career. I mean, one of the things that attracts me to Anthrax is the fact that you guys are very, very socially conscious. So when you started writing things like this, and we're gonna play some other things that are in that realm. First of all, like, how did the rest of the band members take it? And second of all, how did the audience take it when you first started playing? Like, for example, this song.
This song was written. Uh, Scott, who is the main lyricist in the band, we had a discussion about the song and the content, you know, what we wanted to write about, and the music. I had this idea for this song, and we wanted to write about the Native Americans and how they were robbed of the country, and just basically to this day still are not recognized as, you know, when people came here, they were here first. So we've always tackled subjects like this, and racism, homelessness, and just things that as New Yorkers, just kind of we saw and it affected us, you know.
Have any Native American groups or tribes come
Yes,
up to you and say, "Hey, thank you for what you're doing"? Yeah.
yes, many times we've had this. We've had people come backstage when we've played parts of, you know, in Arizona. We've had groups come backstage and meet with us and tell us that, like, this song, when they saw this video and heard this song, it gave them a feeling of people are listening, people are recognizing what we went through.
Now, what I want to do right now is just to put a little bit of the lyrics of the song so you can hear the poetry that comes out of this great band. If Jorge can put a little bit of the lyrics up of Indian, so we could go through it just a little bit, a couple of the stanzas of it. Charlie, can you see that?
I see it.
Can you read it? Can you read it out to us? Just the first two stanzas.
The first, of course, the first verse is, we all see black and white when it comes to someone else's fight. No one ever gets involved. Apathy can never solve. And then, of course, it says, forced out, brave and mighty, stolen land. They can't fight it. Hold on to pride and tradition, even though they know how much their lives are really missing. And we are dissing them. And dissing, when we use the term dissing, people are like, what does that mean? And of course, it goes back to our, you know, love of rap music and the term getting dissed and stuff. So, but yeah, this song was a pretty heavy song for us back in the day.
Well, when you're talking about rap music, we can move. Jorge, thanks so much. You can remove the lyrics now. Well,
Hey, Bobby, 1 second though. If you
yeah,
see,
go ahead.
but recently Joey comes out with the big headband like that.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
one
yeah.
of the oldest videos that you did find on there, but if you see it now, he comes out with the whole Indian garb tribe. It's really emotional, and for those people, I think it's something amazing that somebody's still paying attention.
Well, Joey's family, on his mom's side, are Native American.
Mm. And the Joey you're talking about is who? Yeah.
Our singer, the singer Joey Belladonna.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Marco, since you talked about this, we were having a nice conversation yesterday about the band, and you were talking to me about how Anthrax never gets really the credit in terms of fusing heavy hard rock, heavy metal with rap. So, can you talk about that a little bit, Marco, and then Joe?
Well,
Charlie can come in.
Charlie knows better than me, but obviously, I think "Bring the Noise" was iconic. I would help a lot of the rap artists on 48th Street. Jam Master Jay, rest in peace. I did all those samples on that album. I worked with Teddy Riley Guy, all the original first guys. And when those guys did that, it was just amazing that two different opposite genres, because, you know, tension was not as cool as it is now amongst the races, you know, so you had to be careful. And I think they broke the barrier with that. And no disrespect to Aerosmith and Walk This Way, but I think they got more credit because it was Run DMC and Walk This Way was a hit already. And yeah, it was cool, and I'm not dissing it, and I respect it. But I think Charlie and them had it way before then, and it just took more time, I think, maybe for people to accept it. Charlie, I don't know. Maybe.
I think so too. I mean, prior to doing the Bring the Noise song, we had a song called "I'm the Man," and that song was done in early '86, and the Beastie Boys was supposed to do the rapping on it, but our schedules, we could never get the schedules together. So we, the band, we ended up just rapping on this song called "I'm the Man," which was basically, it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. Rodney Dangerfield had this movie called Easy Money, and we took a few lines from that and we kind of made a little song, and it was a B-side, and then it blew up here in America, and it became, top-selling song for us. A couple of years after that, we always wanted to work with Public Enemy because Chuck D, in one of his songs called Bring the Noise, he name-checked us in the song because we would always wear Public Enemy t-shirts back in the day. And it just seemed like a natural thing. And we did a version of Bring the Noise. We rewrote the music, Chuck and Flavor rapped over it, and bam, it was like, as Chuck said, it was bombastic.
Fantastic. Well, before we get into that, we're going to show a little bit of Bring the Noise. I wanted to ask you before that, how did the actual band Anthrax start? What was the evolution of the band, the birth of it, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, like I said earlier, I was in the Bronx in Throgs Neck on this side of the bridge, and Scott was on the opposite side of the bridge in Queens. He was living in Bayside, and we had a mutual friend who put us together, and they came over my house, the two guys from the band, and we played together, and they were like, "Do you want to be in the band?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was in art school at the time, so I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." And I swear, at that moment, from that moment on, it was on. Like, I don't remember anything before it. And we would rehearse in Jamaica, Queens, 5 nights, 6 nights a week. Like, we would do it. We were dedicated, man. We would go and in that music building, and we would rehearse sometimes 6 nights a week, and because we just wanted it so bad, and we would do whatever we had to do. So we got a record deal, an independent record deal at that point, and put the record out. And before you know it, we were out on tour in a van, driving across country. And I had to leave art school, but it's what you got to do.
Now, you were studying art school in college or in high school? Was this
It was a private, like, art school. It was like drafting and graphic design and stuff like that. And I often joke about it, but like being with like record companies like Atlantic, Elektra, or Island Records, the art departments for the record companies was so amazing that I learned a lot of what I would have in going to art school. It taught me so much more than I think I would have learned there, because it was just hands-on and I was seeing it. You're talking to people who design Led Zeppelin album covers, AC/DC, Aretha Franklin. So you meet with these people and you talk about art, and you find out, back in the day when we used to go to record stores and you would go through the bins, they said the worst color that you want is like blue. You don't want to see light blue. It's just not eye-popping. You want reds, yellows, things like that. So when you're walking down the aisle, it hits your eye, So
Right.
these just little things you learn about
Now,
that.
you mentioned that music building in Queens, and Marco knows that place really well. So,
Yes,
Marco, could you tell us a little bit about the vibe of that building and some of the great bands besides Anthrax that came from that building and used to rehearse there? And just describe it for us.
it was in Jamaica, and if anybody remember Earl at the door with the baseball bat, Charlie, remember him? I think we were on the 3rd floor. You guys were on the 6th floor, if I remember correctly. And then I remember, it was a debauchery of bands in there from all styles of music. There was just a craziness going on. But then I remember you guys bringing Metallica over and letting them stay in your room over there for a while. And
yeah.
then the couches going off the ceilings. Earl went crazy with the baseball bats. He goes, you rocker guys, we're going to fucking kill you, man. Get out of here. You know, and I was like, well, dude, how come you don't say it to the other bands? You know, you're only picking on us. But everybody went to that building. It was 24 hours. Everybody did what they did and brought your girlfriend there or whatever you had to do and have them say, hey, check out my drum set. Hey, by the way, there's a couch over here. Hey, let them in.
But yeah,
right?
that was like,
that was the history, that building.
Yeah, it was like 80, 83 around that time, 83 around that. Yeah. And there was like, they used to have a dance school in there. They used to do dancing in there, and there would be bands in there playing and practicing, trying to, you know, make it. And when Metallica came in, they were managed by the same guy that we were managed from, and we let them use our place. We, you know, gave them microwave or refrigerator, stuff like that, just to, you know, help them and let them use our gear. And to this day, we're good friends.
For the people that are tuning in that don't know about this culture that was happening in New York City at the time, a lot of companies had left New York City, and there were these big factory buildings that were owned by landlords, and they utilized them to make money, renting spaces for bands to rehearse. There were several places in Manhattan. I think the most famous one, what street was it on? It's still there, I think.
No, 8th Avenue and 38th Street. That was the Manhattan Music Building.
We had a room in there. It's still there, and people rent out rooms to either keep their drums, keep all their gear, rehearse there, et cetera, et cetera. So that culture was very, very vibrant at the time. Now, Charlie, so we just learned about the birth of Anthrax, but were you playing with other bands at the same time while Anthrax was just in its early stages as well?
I was playing in like cover bands prior to that, but nothing. I was just doing it just to, you know, just to play, you know what I mean, get my chops up. But I always had, you know, these dreams of, you know, breaking out, you know, and doing original music. And, you know, the posters that I had on my walls, I that's what I wanted to be, you know, those guys. You know, you would see ads in magazines of your favorite drummer playing Tama drums or Paiste cymbals, and it's like, someday I'm gonna do this, you know.
Well, you're a Tama endorser, you're a Paiste endorser, you're a Vic Firth endorser, and you're talking about some of the heroes that you had when you opened up these magazines. Besides people like Clyde Stubblefield, who were some of your other heroes drum-wise? I would assume, because at that time, people like Billy Cobham, like he was one of my heroes, and he basically, besides Ginger Baker, started blowing up the drum set into a huge, with a lot of toms, cymbals. Who were some of your other heroes?
I always had different from different fields of you know, of music. So the rock guys, of course, I always loved the John Bonhams, you know, the Neil Peart. I would say Neil was a very big influence on me when I was growing up, like late 70s, early 80s. Whenever Neil did something with Rush, like every record that Rush would put out, he would top it. He would always do something on the next level. And I always recognized that. So whenever I did a record, I would always want to push it, like push the envelope on the next record, you know, just if it was fast on the last one, well, let's make it faster on the next one, you know, or if this chop was this on this record, let's make that chop. Let's put it like faster, more beats per minute, you know, just everything. So there was that side of the rock world, but my other side was into like Dennis Chambers. I love the way Steve Gadd played on Asia, the Steely Dan record. Still to this day, when I hear that, it still gives me goosebumps, that record.
Well, something.
Hold on, Bobby. People
go ahead.
Know, but Charlie did get nominated for a Grammy for playing a Rush song.
That's right. How ironic is that?
Right? Grammy nominated. So I'm going to kill Metallica and Chick Corea, no disrespect, because Both of you guys have been nominated so many damn times, and it's always, and no disrespect, we love Metallica and their familia too, but hey, sometimes you got to give the love, you know what I mean? And you, I'm going to break Chick Corea's fingers. I didn't say that on live TV on Facebook now, but I'm not going to break his fingers. But you 14 times, every time, damn fucking Chick Corea. It's like, tell Chick Corea not to put an album out this year. No, but what you did with West Side Story, Bobby, was incredible. I saw it at Lincoln Center with the big band, and now the thing's gonna come out on Broadway and all that shit. But I just had to interject that because
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, what's nice is that both of us are from the Bronx, and you know, another nice connection that you have, Charlie, is like just like Neil Peart. You're both great drummers, but you're also great lyricists as well. Something that you have in common with him, you know. So that's a fantastic thing. I just wanted to now move on to. We're gonna get into your technique and all that kind of stuff because I have some great questions about that. And I'd like to remind everyone that if you have any questions in the chat room, you can start asking them now because later on we're going to get to them and Charlie will answer them live right here. But getting back to this thing of Charlie's different influences, for example, Clyde Stubblefield, the great funk drummer with James Brown, we're going to play now a video it's very legendary, but it didn't get the dap, the deep appreciation, and that Run DMC did with Aerosmith for Walk This Way. So we're gonna play a little bit of Bring the Noise, which is one of the first examples of rap and rock coming together. So Jorge, if you could give it to us.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That was that video was shot here in Chicago. We had a day off on tour, and Chuck and Flavor flew out for it, and we shot it throughout the day and then part of the night, and then we collapsed.
How long did it take to shoot the video? Just one whole night, or?
It was pretty much throughout the day and throughout the night because during the day we did the interior shots in front of like a green screen, and then at night we invited people down and shot that scene, and it was awesome. And it's like I always say that tour that we did together was one of my favorite tours because every day was exciting. You didn't know what was going to happen.
Fantastic. Well, as the band kept getting mad love and respect from audiences, and your visibility started to get more in the public's eye, the band in and of itself started to be asked to do various things, and one of them is on a TV show that you know. So we're going to have this clip come up, and we're going to have Charlie comment on it. This is Anthrax on Married with Children.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez.
That looked like you guys were having fun, man.
that was a week of fun, excitement, and just like your head is just going like this, like who's that? Who's over there? You know, it was crazy. One of the greatest weeks of our lives.
Now, did you how did they contact you? According to the research done by a person in master control, the great Jorge Vasquez, he said that originally you were supposed to be on The Simpsons, or you were trying to be on The Simpsons.
That's true. That's true. And then the producers from Married with Children heard about it, and they wanted to do this show based around this idea that Bud and Kelly win to have a band stay at their house and blah blah blah, and that band happened to be us. So that's how that happened. The Simpsons was the first one, but it turned out to be Married with Children. And I'll never forget, like, you know, the first day showing up on the set. We did like a table read, you know, like everybody sits around the table and reads a script. And I often said that I don't think any of us looked at the script because we were just staring at everybody around the table, like, you know, Al Bundy and Peg, you know, it was just crazy, you know.
Now, did you guys have any leeway to improvise like some of the dialogue, or you?
Well, okay, so the last day, so we did Monday to Friday, and on Friday is when you tape the show. So you do two shows. You do like an early evening show, and then the later in the evening you do another show. And what happens was the show that you've been rehearsing throughout the week, you do the early show on Friday, and goes off, and people laugh, and then the writers come back and say, "Oh, we're going to change your lines here." So they changed most of our lines, so we had to relearn some of the lines. And the second show that you did, which is the one that they actually filmed, it got way better laughs. So that's how it was. And yeah, you kind of have to hit the line in a certain way so that, you have to put some, physicality into it.
Did you get to meet any of the fans in the studio audience at all? Did they let
Oh
them?
yeah, oh yeah. You get to see that everybody was there. And on one of the days we were doing, when we did a table read, next door to us was the show called Who's the Boss, and Tony Danza, he was
Right.
on that show. So we took a break and went outside, and there was Tony Danza, and he comes over and he's talking to us, and we're like, this is crazy, like we were pinching ourselves. Couldn't believe it.
Wow, fantastic. Marco, do you want to make any comments? Did you remember seeing that show, that episode of the show when you?
Yeah, I think we all did, and everybody we were all fans of the show, obviously, and getting to see somebody that I knew on there was freaking amazing. I wasn't like some other band. I was proud of them, and I think it was awesome, man. I was laughing my ass off again now watching it.
It was so great because we knew some of them prior to that. We would do these softball games for like the TJ Martell Foundation, for kids with cancer and stuff like that, and we would raise money. And one time we played against the Married with Children team, um, and so we knew some of them prior to that. So it was kind of cool.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, we got a question here from I got some more questions because we got to talk about the whole evolution of the blast beat thing that you're known for, et cetera, et cetera. But we got a question here from Chucky Brown. How was Charlie's experience performing at Yankee Stadium? Now, anybody who's from the Bronx knows that biologically we are all born Yankee fans. We used to have Met fans too, but we won't talk about that now. But how was it performing at Yankee Stadium?
It was nerve-wracking to say the least, because my whole family was there. All my friends, my family were there, and it was an event. It was something that we never thought we would do. And when we got the call that we were going to play Yankee Stadium, man, we were just like, our hearts just dropped. So for me, it has a more meaning than maybe others because it was the last show that my mom got to see. Uh, so she saw the whole thing come from me being, little to playing Yankee Stadium, and it was like one of the greatest memories I have is that show that day.
I like to
Fantastic.
interject because I was there and it was absolutely amazing. I took some amazing pictures. Their band was great, and they all wore Yankee shirts with their names on the back.
Yeah,
That was the coolest thing. And man, they tore the roof off the place, and I got chills because I grew up in Astoria, right over the bridge was Yankee Stadium. So being a Yankee fan and seeing one of my best friends playing in
yeah.
there, it was I had the chills, man, and I was on my seat, man. I was headbanging more than everybody else, man.
It was
Now,
great to have everybody there. It was definitely a moment that you won't forget. I don't even think my shoes touched the ground that day.
well, now what version of Yankee Stadium was this? The second version of Yankee Stadium, the refurbished Yankee Stadium, the first time they refurbished it, or the third version?
Yeah, this was what, 2000, this was 14? No, what is it, 14 when we played there, I believe.
So it's the most recent incarnation of Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna open it up for questions. Before we do that, I just wanted to talk a little bit, ask you a little bit about uh, your technique. You're very known for your incredible dexterity, speed with double bass. when did you start playing double bass, or was that something you explored right from the very beginning when you started learning how to play?
No, I only had a single kick, and then prior to me joining the band is when I got another kick drum and just wanted to learn how to play. I was listening to certain drummers, of course, like Neil Peart, but Neil wasn't doing double kick during in the songs. He would do them during the fills. But I was into drummers from like England, like this band Motorhead. Simon Phillips was doing some double kick stuff. Les Binks from Judas Priest, a lot of those drummers. So I was looking to learn how to do it because I was listening to what they were doing, and I'm like, I have to do that.
Now I have in my notes here about a group. I think the group's name is Accept.
That's true.
And
Yep.
then that inspired you in terms of the beginnings of developing this concept of the blast beat. For the people that are watching that are not drummers or musicians or just lay folks who are just fans, explain first what is a blast beat, and then explain how this group Accept
Well,
inspired you.
the group Accept inspired me to take the double kick faster because they had a song back in 80, 83 called Fast as a Shark. And up until that time, it was the fastest double kick that I had heard or anybody had heard, right? It absolutely kicked ass. When that thing came on, man, it just made you, want to rage. Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, from my like audition, when those guys came over to try me out, the first thing I said to them, I'm like, "You're not going to make me play Fast as a Shark, are you?" And they were like, "Can you play it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Let's play it." And that was it. We played that song, and then I think we all knew that that's where we were going.
Wow. Now, who was the drummer in that band that inspired you? Like, do you remember?
I forget his name, but it was like I think his name was Stefan Kaufman. I want to say the singer was Udo Dirkschneider. Marco knows that.
I see a friend coming on, but I got to put this 2 cent story in. We ran to go see Accept open for Kiss at Radio City. And my friend at the time had a 17-inch freaking damn mohawk. He looked like Mad Max. And we were in the first row, and we hear, ah, and no disrespect to Accept, and Stefan's a great drummer and all, but we all looked at each other and we're like, wow, man, like somebody turned the dial down. It was nowhere near what we thought we were going to hear on the record. So then the guy's going, death to false metal. So, but obviously, it could have been a bad night. And the guy, I don't want to take nothing away, but when that song did come out, everybody was like, oh, shit. But then Charlie took it to the next level. But I think somebody sneaking over here on the screen from the Bronx.
Well, we have somebody here who's a fellow Bronxite who wants to say hello to you right now. Jorge, if you could get him on the screen right now.
He's on there. He's on
I don't
there.
say.
What's going on, fellas?
The great Calhoun from another S.O.D, a son of the Bronx, you know.
How you guys doing, man?
We're hanging and learning a lot about Charlie, about his roots.
Yeah, man. Charlie, man. Killer. One of my faves, for sure.
When did you first meet Charlie? Like,
Wow.
Well, wow.
Maybe.
Oh, let me say, you guys toured together.
Yeah,
but before that, was it at Dante's Father's Deli in Yonkers? I don't know.
It probably was there.
Dante's Father's
Yeah. Mr. Renzi's Deli was like the place where that's the first time I heard your money's no good here.
Yeah. Actually, I saw you guys in I think it could have been CBGB back.
Oh, wow.
Even I think it may have been before the record was out.
So that's like 87, 88, something like that. Wow.
Yeah. But
I'll tell you something. Let me tell you guys something. You know, the world that I'm in, the couple of worlds that I'm in, nowhere near CBGB's. But the woman I was dating at the time, no, I think I was married at the time. I said, let's go down to CBGB's just to see the vibe down there. And CBGB's, in case people don't know, is a very important club in terms of the history of rock. I'll let the gentleman on screen talk more about it. But it was just amazing because there was a gentleman at the door, African American. And I said, how much is it to get in? He goes, what? And I go, how much is it? It was so loud. And he goes, listen, man, I wouldn't suggest you going in. Just stay right here and listen to the music. It was like a thermonuclear explosion. Whoever was on stage coming at us, and there were people in front of the speakers, young people. I said, either they're deaf or they must have earplugs or whatever. But just the power coming out of there. So,
They had a great PA system.
yes,
The best in New York.
guys,
The best in New
you guys,
York.
you guys described the club and how important it was to the development of the rock scene in New York City. If you could talk about that a little bit.
Guys,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a place where, ironically, by the time we got there, you know, punk met metal, met funk, met rock. You know, first of all, let's pay our respects to Hilly, the owner.
Yeah.
And Hilly was the kind of guy where if he took a cassette, he used to be at the front door at that wooden table with his daughter or his niece, I think it was. And he had a boom box, and you would take your cassette there, and he had a bunch of tapes stacked up. And you would go by and say, I want to play the club. And Hilly would pop the tape into the boom box. And if he liked you, he booked you, period. That's kind of how it was. The other incredible thing was I took a flight to LA one time, and Hilly was on the same flight as I. And much to my surprise, you know, he worked with Thelonious Monk, and he worked with Ron Carter, and he worked with Roy Haynes, and he was like a bebop genius because he talked about the Village in the 50s. So then he was this heavy guy that was getting into metal and having this club and all of these great cats. And then until I sat down on the flight with him and we talked, I didn't really know how deep his roots were with music in New York City. So having a club owner that cool and chilled out, I never heard him raise his voice. He was always very chilled out, and to be so open-minded and to have all kinds of bands playing there. And there wouldn't be a Living Color without CBGBs. I'll leave it there without a doubt.
I mean, CBGB's had so much attitude about it that if you were going to witness a band, you came out of there going, well, I'm kind of infected with whatever was in there because it just came over you. I remember seeing so many different bands there, and it was just like legendary, you know. The only thing I will say about it that was crazy is I believe that COVID came from the bathroom at CBGB's because that thing was disgusting.
I remember Charlie walking downstairs, and the bathroom was so bad they didn't even bother putting a gender sign on there. It just was a toilet seat without the cover and on some stones. And if you had the gumption to even walk in that room, I mean, you would come out of there with something the dinosaurs had, without a doubt.
Definitely, it glowed. It had this glow.
If you had to drop a deuce, you're in trouble.
Nah, dude, you had to go around the corner to the restaurant. You don't. I mean, you didn't even go in there just to wash your hands. That place was like that was a science project.
Definitely.
Well, talking about, we're so glad Will Calhoun from Living Color is here joining us. We're talking about Charlie and the development of the blast beat. Jorge has something that is an example of Charlie playing in using this technique. So Jorge, take it away.
Jorge's great.
Hey. What happened to Jorge?
I think Jorge left.
Jorge, are you there?
Here he is.
Okay.
Whoa, yeah, baby.
So it's funny because we're talking about CBGBs, and when we used to go down to the hardcore matinee on Sunday, there was friends of ours. They used to have a band called New York City Mayhem, and the bass player from Anthrax, original Anthrax, Danny Loker, him and I would be fans of theirs, and they used to play these short little songs with like these little blasts in it, and we wanted to write a song with that type of vibe in it, and this song turned out to be a song called Milk, and basically it was like it was a blast. We call it just blast or bombing, and it's just basically like 30-second notes, but the way I did it, I just did it with a single kick drum. Nowadays people do it with a double kick, And then that was it. That's all it was. And people would always say, "What are you playing there? What are you playing there?" And that's how it came about.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna have now from the underground and the Fox and King, two groups that are supporting the rock scene here in the Bronx and are supporting us at the Bronx Music Heritage Center. We're gonna have two members from that from both collectives that represent two great groups in the Bronx that are really in the forefront of rock. Francesca La Macchia and Danny Castro. We're gonna ask Francesca first, who is Francesca is the guitarist, right, Elena?
Yes.
She's the guitarist
Yes.
of a multitude of drops. We're gonna have her ask two questions of Charlie right now. So Francesca, go right ahead.
Hi. First of all, it's very nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi. And my first question is the same question that I get asked constantly as the songwriter of my band. Do you have a specific songwriting process?
The process is sometimes I will go in my studio and I'll just play, and I will hit record, and I'll play for as long as I feel stuff is coming out, and then I'll listen back and wow, that was great right here. And I usually take that and then I'll apply it to something else that sounds like it and build a song around it. Other times I'll just have an idea and I'll hum it into my phone or recorder and then go back and basically like transcribe what I was humming and make a song like that.
Okay. And as my other question is kind of similar, but it's about lyrics, because as we've been talking about, you're a very great lyricist, and so
Well, I don't do most of the lyrics come from our guitar player Scott. He's the main lyricist in the band. Yeah, I mean, I do more of the music, and Scott does the bulk of the lyrics in the band. So I could call him up and ask him the question.
That's okay. I have another one here. We didn't talk about Stormtroopers of Death.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know a little bit about maybe the contrast or the similarities between Anthrax and Stormtroopers, and where that kind of came out of.
So the Stormtroopers of Death basically was something that it was a side project that we put together with some people that we knew from CBGBs who were in hardcore punk band and ourselves. And it was basically one of those first crossover bands who took hardcore punk and metal and put them together. And a lot of that stuff was very tongue-in-cheek and kind of humorous, and we were writing about stuff like, I want some milk. You wake up in the morning and you go to the refrigerator and there's no more milk, and that's a song. So that's what we would write about. But we wanted to play faster than anybody, and we wanted to play heavier than anybody, and that's how that came about.
Okay.
Francesca, thank you so much for your questions.
And good luck.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned. And we have Danny Castro, who is the drummer of the Drew Torres Trio, who has just come out with a new recording. And Danny we'll have him ask two questions as well. Danny, if you're there, you could get on screen and you can ask Charlie your questions.
Right on, right on. Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can see you too.
Awesome. All right, awesome. So yeah, good. What's up, Charlie? I want to offer a compliment for Charlie, and then I actually have a very important question for all four of you. Actually, I'd love to ask Will as well, since he just jumped on the call. But I got to say, listening to all of your stories about 48th Street and Manny's and Music Row, and telling stories about these neighborhoods in the Bronx, which are still our stomping grounds. It's really inspiring, and really, really awesome to hear. Earlier, Marco said something about, he referred to Charlie as the Clyde Stubblefield of metal. And I found that it makes sense, because one of the songs that really impacted me at a young age was called Namash. There's a fill that you do in the beginning of the song that's like a ghost note, you know, and you kind of
triplets
drive it with bass drum and hit the china. And I remember thinking at a young age, like, that's such a funky fill for a speed metal song. And that kind of influenced me to get into like blending genres and stuff. So thank you, you know, for that. That was huge as a kid.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Right on. So
I told you guys, I told you.
Right. So yeah, I'd love to hear from all of you right now, actually, what your advice is for upcoming musicians who are navigating this new world with COVID-19, you know, how to stay relevant and active, you know, without having the opportunities to play live gigs as much. And, you know, what are some things that you can offer the up and coming musician right now during this 2020 climate that we're in?
Dude, I'll tell you, I'll go first and tell you that the last show that we played together as a band was in November of 19, and we played up in Mohegan Sun. That was our last show. And in March of this year, we were supposed to go to Japan. That was our first show for the beginning of the year. We were going to go play this big festival there. But of course, COVID hit before that. And so for me personally, February hit and things got crazy. And I was like glued to the news like every day, 24/7. And I was getting so depressed watching this day in and day out that it was starting to affect me. And I'm sure it was affecting people the same way it was affecting me. So my girlfriend said, you got to stop watching this. You got to shut this off because it's not good for you. And then what I did was something that I did when I was younger. I went up to like a room that I set up a little studio and I started playing again as if it was when I would come home from school and play my drums in my room. And I started doing that and started making sense of this whole thing. And then I asked some friends of mine from other bands to be part of these little jams that I put together. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see them all. One of them that I did was a Living Color song that to this day is my favorite one. And Corey, of course, Corey Glover sang on it. I got Ra, the bass player who's in Suicidal Tendencies, and Henry from the Butcher Babies played this version of this Living Color song. And it was so awesome. So I started to make music again and feel good about things and reach out to other people who may have been feeling kind of depressed and said, you want to play on this? Let's do this. And to this day, I still do it because it keeps my chops up, keeps me focused. And I know, you know, we're going to get out of this thing. And I don't know, man, it's just like, the thing that helps me the most is when people write me and say, they thank you for doing this, dude. This is like a highlight of my day when I see your videos and making music again. And I think that's what it's all about, is making people happy. And man, stop watching the news.
Right on. That's beautiful, man. Thank you.
Is Will there? Is Will there? Want to comment that? Is Will there? Is Calhoun there to comment on that? Or I'll go.
I would love to comment, man. I'm going to get ready to get back. Some lovely food arrived.
All right, so then I guess I'll go.
Finally. Look interesting it is here. Check this out. Look at that.
Ooh.
Oh, that's like a wedding hall.
Check that out. I can play a game. I can play a game of tennis in this restaurant. I can shoot a cannon in here and I won't hit anybody. How's that for clarity? Okay, man. But yeah, Charlie's videos are dope, man. I'm a fan. I checked them out, and I like the version of Funny Vibe and all the stuff that he's doing. But I'm dealing with it no differently, other than writing, playing instruments. I don't normally play enough, like guitar and piano. Doing some songwriting. And you know what's funny, man? You know, I had to get used to also not doing anything. You know, we've all been on the road for 30 plus years. Right. And we take these little cheesy breaks like holidays or going to see your parents or Christmas time or whatever. But it's actually, I needed to take a minute other than shutting the TV off not to do anything because the energy is all around you and the ideas are there, but they're being blocked by so many other distractions. And once I took about 2.5 weeks, it felt strange not to do anything to kind of force myself a little bit. Then I went to MySpace and I started to become more creative because I let go of a lot of things. COVID taught me about excess, things in your life that you probably don't need. You know, for 4 months, I didn't open my closets. I was just wearing sweatpants and bloody flip-flops every day. So, you know, you look at something like that and you use that metaphor as things in your life that you need and who you care about. I lost some very serious, great loved one musicians from New York. That was very painful, but the idea is to reflect. COVID helped me to reflect on my friends, you know, like Marco and you know, Marco and I talked a few times with our own personal things, but to reflect, man, on those kind of things and then understand the value of music in my life now. Maybe when I was 20, it had a different value. And now it is my life for real. And all of the places where I traveled, the music that I like to play. So I took a little time, man, to do nothing. I definitely got a COVID belly that went along with that. You know what I'm saying? Lots of, Marco knows I'm up by Nick's. I think is the best pizza in the world. It's up in the Bronx. So, you know, Nick, I'm a sucker for the calzones up there. So I go up there and hit the calzones. And I had probably a little bit too many, but life is beautiful. You know, it's give and take. So that's it, man. Balance and art. And then once in a while, getting a good look at yourself is important. Not in an egotistical way, just in a real way. You know, what do you do? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? What's important? What do you need in your life? What don't you need in your life? And then structuring spiritually those things around how you want to exist. Man. You know, maybe you just realize my relationship is amazing, or maybe you realize my relationship is horrifying. You know, it depends on, you know, silence gives you many, many definitions, and it gives you many, many reasons to be creative. So that's how I looked at it. And on that note, I'm gonna hang, gentlemen, but my food arrived, so I'm gonna just block the camera and the mic. Anybody needs me, just call my name, but don't be surprised if you see something hanging out of my mouth. Some sauce on the shit. I'll try to keep it clean.
Thank you.
But thanks for the question, man, and thanks for supporting. So
that resonates.
Man. And good luck to you.
Resonates great.
Later, Will.
Right.
Enjoy your dinner.
All right, take care.
You know, one thing I wanted to say that Will touched on is like there are silver linings in this COVID world that we live in. And you gotta remember, being a young band or being a young musician, once you get out of this, don't be so quick to like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna sign right away. Take a breath, man. Don't sign something. If you have a deal that's going on, take a minute, because it will hurt you in the long run if you sign something really quick. A lot of bands are just always, yeah, let's do it. Come on, I want to be signed. I want to go on the road. And then a year later, you look at your contract and you're like, oh man, I signed everything away.
It's a good point, man. Let the dust settle, man. Just let the dust settle. And don't be afraid to do nothing. And don't be afraid not to make a decision. You don't have to make a decision right now. Maybe you want to play out some more. Maybe you want to write some more tunes. Maybe you want to be independent. And you guys gig and you make the money yourself, make the record yourself. Look at all your options. And just remember, music is timeless, man. It ain't going anywhere. Just because you don't cut the record next month doesn't mean you can't cut it next year. So just keep that in mind, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, awesome.
I like to kick in a different point. First, I want to say it's an honor to have Will and Charlie as friends for so many years. After, I played at 9 and 13 in polka bands with my brother, rest in peace. So yeah, I wanted to be where those guys was. And then, like I said earlier, we got LSD, and then Vic asked me if I wanted a job. So I kind of gave up being the pro, because all I did was play drums and work in the music stores to pay the rehearsal room, because the singer never had any money, right? It's to chip in. So from going to the other side and seeing it, doing artist relations, what do? I give stuff away, but it's easy to give somebody who's famous something away than going, like I'll never forget my first gig at Vic. I went to the Mercury Lounge, where Will and Charlie know about.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
Club, and it was 25 people there, man. It was dead empty, and I went there with a bag of Vic Firth sticks, like I was green as this nice green Charlie shirt, and it was POD stained and doped, and none of them had.
Wow.
And I signed all 3 of them. I was like, I'll give you 12 pair of sticks. I'll give you 12 pair of sticks. And then
That's nuts.
POD was like, yo, homie, this guy's going to give me 12 pair of sticks. What the fuck? Oh, cool, man. I love Vic Firth. And then John Soisaki from Stain goes, hey, man, cool. And then Racy and Edzo from Dope were like, yo, man, that's cool. So, see, I was like, I can't give you everything for free, but then I give you a little bit and I'll work with you. And then I went to my first NAMM show at Vic Firth, and then Wub walks up and hands me a platinum plaque because POD went platinum. And it was like, that's the point I'm trying to say is, you know who your friends are when you don't have something free to give away. And, you know, I must have dealt with at least, I'm not bragging or anything, but I speak 5 languages, and Vic was like a second dad, man. That guy showed me so much. I traveled to all these crazy countries I never would have. And that's how I blew Vic Firth up, because as big as Vic Firth was in America, they didn't care about the rest of the world. And I said, listen, man, there's great drumming and every country's got something to offer different. It doesn't mean that a samba is better than a blast beat or whatever. It's food. I'm a fat Italian. I love to eat, right? I said I've been to Betty Ford for food rehab, right? Because truffles cost more than blowing enough at 5 in the morning. Your fingernail, you're just looking for some Italian bread to dip in fucking clothes, you know? But that's the thing, and it's an honor to have like guys like Charlie and Will that remember. And I'm not bragging, but I endorsed everybody for 20. Like I was the endorsing guy for 20 years on 48th Street before I got to that side, because I had everything. So all these guys that had endorsements, and Bobby, you too, everybody would say, "Go get it from Marco, and I'll replace it." Right? And I did it for the love. And then when I got the Vic Firth gig, I never was a photographer, but every time I asked the photographer for a picture of Charlie or whoever, they all would look at me like a dick, excuse my language. I got the singer and the guitarist. I go, no, dude, I'm a drummer. I want the
always.
So I had that shitty camera. I was in the pit. I got kicked in the head. I got 2 discs missing from a Cryptopsy show. And then I got pissed off.
Oh my God.
I got pissed off, and I got $10,000 of Nikon, and Charlie could tell you all the Vic Firth ads and the Evans ads, and I did with Anthrax ads.
Always.
I did it because I love supporting my family of drummers, because we always looked as the dude in the back.
That's right.
And I had some, I'm not going to say names, but with some of the hip hop community, you know, like guys like Aaron Spears, who nobody knew him, and I was giving him free sticks, and now he's one of the biggest guys, and he's playing with everybody, and he's one of the most humblest guys. But you know, I'm on stage and Puffy's there and at the Usher show, and he's gonna jump up, and it was bullshit. He went and practiced it, and then I go, well, how come you support music but you don't support drummers? What's up with that? And he walked away on me. But all I'm just saying is, for you as a young person, when Charlie grew up and I grew up, yes, it was all labels and you had to deal with that. Now, we had a mailing list. You know, we would go around to the shows, and I even got the little shirt, the Cat Club shirt, and, you know, the girl would come and say, hey, sign the mailing list, and we'd mail you a card. You have the advantage now sending out an email, and you could get 10,000 people to say when you're playing, but we need the world to open up and start playing again. So doing artist relations and working with all these companies and going around the world, I'm going to brag now. All of us drummers, and no disrespect to Francesca, but we have a bond that the other musicians don't. Like, Charlie will show me his foot pedal, or he'll come in and say, dude, check out this stand I got, where the guitarist sometimes covers the freaking amp, and he doesn't want you to see what effect pedal he has, where you know.
Hardware porn, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. What's that cymbal you're playing, man? That seems nasty, yeah.
And Charlie's the first one that would give you the shirt off his back and say, yo, check my shirt out, you know? He's got a great new signature snare drum, check this out. But it's all about the camaraderie and being real. But this COVID, I have to tell you, is really messing things up. And I'm not at the Dario Evans or promo con, so I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to be working with Hendrix Drums, who bought Noble and Cooley drums. So I'm going to be doing artist relations and sales for those guys. I'm going to try to help them out. But to be honest, I can't do anything until the society opens, because who the hell wants to buy a drum if you need to buy food? you know? So I know some people say
That's
the
right.
numbers are inflated with this COVID and it's political, but one of my best friends, his daughter works at the morgue for New York City, and Charlie knows him. It's Walt. It's he's Bill Ward from Sabbath's assistant for 20 years, you know.
Wow.
And the shit that she saw, because she had to work at every borough, okay? I hope she doesn't get PTSD, because I don't even want to say the things that she saw, because the bodies were coming in so bad, they were going out. So not to dismal the whole thing, but like Charlie said, I watch his Instagram. When I see him doing all these little jam things, I get inspired too, because it's like, yo, man, at least we got to keep the flame going and we got to keep playing, because I think the electronics is cool to a point, but nobody wants to practice no more, and everybody wants to be like on American Idol. It's like, dude, did you ever play a gig in a bar yet? Have you ever played a show? Okay, one show to me is 25 rehearsals. And Charlie could attest to that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I said earlier about getting in a van and going across country. You know, yeah, that's the one thing that people don't do that much anymore. They don't bond as dudes. You know what I mean? Or whoever's in the band. You know, guys, girls. You know, you get in a van, you start playing shows. You just do it, and you're sleeping on people's floors somewhere, and you know it builds character, and it builds that familia within the band.
The only other thing I just want to say is I would always do these artist dinners with Vic Firth, and I would go to LA 3 times a year, stay there for a week, or go wherever. But I wasn't a prejudiced artist dinner. It wasn't a metalhead artist dinner. It was a
everybody's sitting at the table. Yeah,
so I don't care. You know, and Charlie's been to them. We had rock, metal, jazz, funk, punk, disco guys all at the same table, you know, like Dave Weckl and Alphonse Mouzon, rest in peace. You know, Danny Carey going, dude, that's fucking Alphonse Mouzon at the table. Oh, holy shit, and I got to play Mind Transplant. You suck. Why did you bring him here? And I'm like, dude, fucking Danny Carey, don't worry about it. You know, and then fucking Carmine's there.
Wait. Alphonse Mouzon, another Bronx guy.
Yes, he was.
Really?
Right? Peace, man. Anybody go buy that album for $6 and you'll hear real drumming. Ain't no Pro Tools. That guy fucking played that fusion, man. When Billy Cobham put out Spectrum, he put out Mind Transplant. And you go check that shit out. But not to get off subject, all I'm just saying is, keep playing and use your social media and your outlets, because we had my grandmother putting the labels on, and we couldn't afford the stamps. And then my friend worked in the mailroom, his brother, and then when they went out to lunch, we snuck in the mailroom and put the stamps. So, hey, yeah, we're at the Cat Club, you get $5 off a ticket. You don't need that shit now. Now you got...
We got our phones, yeah.
And just be honest to yourself, man. Don't try to copy. Like, one thing hits and then everybody, like, then Charlie knows this, man. One thing hits and then everybody tries to copy it. Like, oh, I'm going to do that type of shit. No, people read right through you. You got to be true to yourself. And that's why I got to give Charlie props, because he doesn't have 20 solo bands. He is Anthrax. And I'm sorry, Charlie. I don't know if I'm offending you, but he writes all the tunes, and he doesn't have 20 solo albums. His next solo album is the next Anthrax album, and that comes from the heart, man. That's no Pro Tools, and it shows in his playing.
Thank you, Marco. That's awesome. I mean, it must be really tough to be an aspiring musician nowadays, because I feel music is so devalued. It's not the way it once was. When everything, your whole music collection is in this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's these streaming sites that I'll say it right now, you know, we don't get paid much on these things. So people love to use things like, you know, the Spotify's and Pandora. But as far as the artist goes, we don't get paid on what you're worth, I'll say. So
I have to say it's totally unfair. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to throw numbers out, but it's like they got to play a song 40 or 50 times to make a penny, and then you got to split the penny with the band. I mean, there's different deals, but it's sad because I used to like to buy the album, and like Charlie said, the artwork, Roger Dean, or the albums and all of those, and you'd read the liner notes, man.
And you see who produced the record, who mixed it and mastered it, all that.
And one thing we didn't say, Charlie is such an amazing graphic artist, and art. I would look forward to it. You know, like he sent me something for Christmas, and he put the Simpsons drawing. I still have it on my wall, you know? I cut out the freaking wrapping paper just to save that drawing.
Didn't Charlie, just to interrupt a little bit, didn't Charlie design that T-shirt that you're wearing?
Yes.
There you go.
Well, we gotta talk. We gotta talk, Charlie, because when next time you come to New York, maybe we could do this with Will Calhoun, me, and you, and to have a fourth person who's like in the control group that is in the Bronx, that will have Marco, and we'll give a tour of the different pizza places in the Bronx. Which is my personal favorite is John and Joe's on Lighting Avenue. You know, but everybody has an argument about who's got the best pizza in the Bronx.
Look at Will's on right now.
I gotta talk about pizza now. Where's the calzone? Nix.
Hey, here's the deal.
Best garlic nuts. John and Joe's on Lighting. You know,
we'll drive around and we'll do samples, man, like a wine tasting. We'll do a pizza tasting.
That's
and we'll hit Nick's, you know, and you want to go over to Arthur Avenue, we can do that too.
Yeah, and then we'll hit Patricia's. We'll hit Patricia's on the way out.
Yeah, forget about Action Bronson, man, and his food show, man. Forget about him.
Well, hit me up, please. I'd love to go to Louis and Ernie's, man.
Come and join us. Actually, that could be a television show, man. Just drum pizza. You know,
that's right.
Back in the day, my favorite pizza place was Patsy's on 117th Street. It's
in East Harlem.
East Harlem is my favorite place to go. That place was
Charlie, check this out. There's a Patsy's now in the Bronx.
I know it.
On Morris Park Avenue, man.
I know. I've been there.
My only complaint to Patsy was the slices were so small. I had to get like 7 of those things. So I ate 2 at the counter while they were still making more. And I putting grated cheese. And Cal was like, "What the hell are you doing in there? You ate it?" Nope.
Well, Charlie, if you know Patsy's, then you must know Patricia's, the restaurant.
I know, of course. I've been to Patricia's many times too. I took
Dom Formolaro, another industry legend there.
Don's great too, man. Great drummer.
Yeah.
Great educator too.
So we'll do that. We have to stay in touch. You know, one of the things I have to say to answer your question, Danny, real quick, to throw my 2 cents in.
Please.
Now 25 cents with inflation. Is that everybody is, and not to drop a name, but he's one of our heroes, Jack DeJohnette. I called him up the other day for his birthday, legendary jazz drummer, and he goes, "Yo, Bobby, so you've been practicing?" And I go, "Well, not really." And he goes, "I know, man. I got no inspiration. I'm not inspired, you know." But the thing is, this is the hardest thing that for us to get through, because especially we live to perform with our fellow musicians on stage, and whatever style of music it is, we just need that it's our being, it's part of our DNA. This whole thing, if you want to look up some videos that I've done on YouTube, you can check out something called Haiku for Kevin, which I did with my big band, which is we did it the whole thing, you know, everybody's looking, you see everybody like the Brady Bunch on different screens and everything, and that's nice. And many people, the technology affords us that capability now, but it doesn't afford us the capability because of latency issues.
Sure.
Play together live, and that is like that. Once this thing is over, and I've talked about this with my wife Elena, she said something very insightful to me. You know, that plague that happened, that virus that happened, that Spanish flu that happened in 1918, it lasted till 1921, and like 50 million people died. That's an exorbitant number. It's like ridiculous. We can't even comprehend that today. And what happened after it ended? The Roaring '20s, the Jazz Age. So there's good things that are coming down the pipe. We just have to be able to hang there and get over, you know, everybody has this low-grade depression. We're all going through it. It's an interesting time period because no matter how high you are in the music business or how low you are in the music business, everybody's equal now. Everybody's out of work. So we're all equal now. And what do we have? each other. So it's a good time to reflect, like Will said. Check out, as you as a young person, check out some of the bands that Charlie talked about. Check out some of the music that you might be on the periphery interested in but don't know enough about. I don't even know enough about heavy metal. My connection to heavy metal is that Eddie Trunk show. What is it called?
It's not on anymore.
I know, but I used to love watching it because I mean
that metal show,
history, as you well know, and I love his insight into the history of all these different bands that I know nothing about, knew nothing about, and I'm going, wow, this is really insightful. I dig heavy metal because it's one of the few styles of music outside of jazz where the musicians are featured as soloists. You know, you have blistering guitar solos, not as many bass solos but the drummers have to be really on point. And the musicians are featured as improvisers, like what I love from my world that I'm in jazz and Latin jazz, so and in salsa. So this is a good time period to do all of that. There's great books that are out there now that on the history of all different forms of music. I've been catching up on my reading, and also for me, it's put me into a space where I have to now learn about the technology. I never did a Zoom. I had to. I'm on the faculty at NYU and at where else? At the New School. The last 2 months we had to deal with Zoom classes and all that. I had to deal with that. I had to learn the technology, etc. So you're in a good spot. You're in a bad spot, but you're in a good spot. And one of the greatest things is that the only thing that has saved always humanity has been art, and you're an artist. So whether you know it or not,
exactly.
It's a good thing. So that's my answer to your question, my 2 cents. Now that was perfect. Your first question. What's your second question?
Oh
damn!
And just for Charlie, your second
for Charlie. Oh Jesus! All right. Real. And to be honest, that was the most important thing that I could have asked at this time, and all of you have left me with real inspiration. So thank you. But Charlie, I guess if you could give yourself advice when you were younger, something that you wish was your North Star. Like Will's like, ooh. if you could say one thing to yourself when you were in your 20s, what would it be? Career advice.
Oh wow!
Read the fine print on anything you sign.
Read the fine print. All right.
You know what? The thing that always hits me the most is that sometimes life was moving too fast that I didn't have a chance to kind of grasp it and take hold of it. It just went too fast sometimes. Because when you're in this business, you're always 6 months to a year ahead of it because shit's got to be booked, And I remember just exciting times like going on tour with bands who I worshipped when I was younger, like when we first went on tour with Kiss. And every day to me was like was so exciting, and I felt like all I wanted to do is just hang and talk to those guys, and that's what I did. I had to go play my show, but after the show, all I wanted to do is just go and hang with them and learn. Show me this stuff, and that's the one thing. Always have your eyes open and your ears open.
Charlie, hanging out with your fellow musicians on the road, you find out a lot of things like Gene Simmons. A lot of people don't know he taught public school
in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, yeah. I mean, people don't know that. I mean, that's the first thing I'd talk to him about. A lot of the people that you admire, you don't know anything about their personal lives other than their great playing that you admire, etc. So I'm going to ask Charlie a question right now. How did the guitar become part of your life, and when did you start playing guitar? A lot of people know that Charlie's a great guitarist as well.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. I taught myself how to play guitar because I couldn't convey to other people what I was hearing in my head, and I couldn't show them drumming wise because I couldn't be, and I couldn't play piano. So I had to teach myself how to play guitar. And I did that by listening to, AC/DC records, all those types of things. And I just taught myself how to play because I had these ideas that I needed to show other people. And that's how I did it. I just taught myself. I played so much.
Wow. So did anybody like show you like, hey, here's a basic chord, you know, or anything like that? You just did it on your own, then?
Yeah, I just watched and learned, and
Wow.
that was the one thing about learning with my ear rather than my eyes. You know, like I couldn't. I was learning how to read music, and I was getting really good at it. And then I feel like rock music came, and I was just like, I'll do that some other time. And I just wanted to, you know, listen and learn.
Right. Now, since you play guitar, do you have some basic chops on bass as well?
Yeah, I mean, guitar is basically bass with two extra strings, but you know, but bass, you got to hold it down. You got to feel it more, you know?
Now, we have a question from Jorge in Master Control here, who's been helping us out with all the technical things. He wants to know a little bit about the rehearsal spot that you had that caught on fire, and your kit, and your, like, you basically lost all your gear, and it, for
Yeah.
Jorge personally, that hurt him hearing about that. How did you survive that, and what were the details behind that, etc.? How'd you come out of it?
We had a rehearsal place in Yonkers, up in Yonkers, and we shared it with some other bands. And the report that we got at the end of the day was in the other room there was some equipment left on, and it caught on fire and it burnt the place down, and we lost a lot of equipment. And you know, it was terrible at the time, but you know, you rebuild, and you may have lost your favorite drum pedal or your favorite guitar, but you know, you move on. It was devastating for us, but it also created the record that we were doing. It created a much darker record than we thought we were doing. It was because that had a lot to do with it.
Talk a little bit about Frank. Frank,
hold on 1 second. I got to interject because you were talking about how Charlie plays guitar. So in Vic Firth days, I did an ad campaign of what do you like to do when you're not playing the drums. So like what turned you on? And thanks to Orchard Beach in the Bronx and Mr. Calhoun with his flute, he could play some badass flute. So I don't think people know Will could play flute. So we had people looking at me, what is this dude taking a picture of this guy? And Will had this cool outfit. He's playing the flute in the sand. And like, wow, these guys are interesting, man, you know? But the magazine. So that's what I think Charlie said is a lot of guys don't want to take the time to read the music. Like I grew up, I took lessons for 6 months, but you played by ear. So people don't know, Buddy Rich never read music, right? But he had a big band. So he would make a drummer play the song, and his memory was so great, he'd say, all right, get off the kit, I know how to do it. And you know, big band, because Bobby, you have an 18-piece big band, the charts, you got more charts than charts. So
21 musicians.
21, so.
Damn.
But, and guys like Dennis Chambers don't read music, but they have that special instinct in them that they can listen to the tune and put their flavor on it, because everybody on here has got their own flavor, like Flavor Flav, right?
Yeah, boy.
Well, listen, man. Now that you're talking about, we got to do a pizza jaunt through the Bronx. Then we wind up, me, you, and Will at Orchard Beach.
That's good.
And Charlie on guitar, Will on the flute, and me on the bongo congas. And
I'll bring my old brother's accordion. I can play a couple of these.
We'll bring hippie dump to Orchard Beach, man. I'm serious. We got to do that. That's going to be hilarious, man. I don't know if Will is listening right now, but that would be fantastic. Now listen.
No, I'm here, man. I'm here. I see. I'm getting elected to play flute on City Island.
While Elena,
you guys are gonna be.
Instance is on the background, is lit, and Elena is in the background doing some freeform Grateful Dead dancing. You know.
We gotta cut it. We gotta cut it. She's probably doing it. All right, and to end it off, I just want to thank everybody for letting me be part of this. I want to thank.
Hey man, don't let it could be our retirement project. You never know, man.
I just want to thank all you guys. Well, you didn't see it. I did my strip show and I got my disco lights here. So you got to come over in the basement. They all blink and shit. That's my new thing. I got 22 remote controls. I had to get tape and write which one does what.
Charlie, before we leave, real quick, two things. What is that symbol that you're using that's a gigantic bell?
So that was just a bell that Peisty, it's called a mega bell chime. I was using it like a couple of years ago, and then Peisty is doing a signature ride for me, and it sounds so sweet. And that'll be out next year.
And what about the new snare drum that you have that Tama Drums is putting up?
So my signature snare came out a few years ago. It's basically a stainless steel, 6.5 by 14, and it just cracks. I love it. I use it every night on tour.
We got one more question.
No. I wanted to. I think Marco, you wanted to go. I just wanted to give a big shout out. Thank you so much to Charlie Benante for taking part tonight in this. This was incredible. And we want to thank everyone who took part tonight. Jorge, thank you for making it all work technically. Marco SOCCOLLI, our MC for Rock the Bronx. We'll have Rock the Bronx soon again. We'll have you back to MC that. Thank you so much for making this possible. Our surprise guest, Will Calhoun, who's also on the Bronx Music Heritage Center's advisory board. Thank you for our surprise guest tonight. And we also want to thank the Underground and the Fox and King for being our partners, and Francesca and Danny for taking part for tonight. Please make sure you keep coming back to the Bronx Music Heritage Center's Facebook page. We have a lot of online programming. We'll be doing Percussion Discussion next month. We're going to have Ghanaian drumming concerts as well. So please come back and check out what we're doing on our Facebook page. Thank you.
And as always,
thank you, Elena. Thank you, everybody, man.
And as always, the woman has the last word. Charlie, we love you madly. Make sure you let everybody know when you come back to your home borough.
Elena forgot. There's a theater being built right now, a beautiful 300-seat theater in the Bronx. And when that theater is done, we're going to have a replication of my wedding, but we're not going to get married. We're just going to put 10 drum sets.
Yeah.
We're going to have salsa. We're going to call all the boys, and we're going to take it down to Chinatown, as Johnny T would say.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, lots of love, man. Take care, Charlie. Good to see you, man.
Bye-bye.
Love you madly. Thank you for doing this for us. Thank you.
Right.
Cheers.
Everybody.